All right, welcome back to the Championship Round Show. It is Friday, August 7th, and 2026. We're continuing our study with the book of James. I am still getting used to doing this, so bear with me as I get more comfortable. It's not like the old days. It's taken a while to kick off the rust, so thank you for your patience. Thank you for those who have listened, and I do appreciate it. We're going to keep trudging along through James. Anyway, last week we talked about controlling and keeping a tight rein on our tongue and on the way we speak to folks. And in the end of that verse, it says if we don't do that, if we don't keep a tight rein on our language, on the way we speak to folks and about folks, our religion is worthless, right? So this week we're going to go into verse 27. We're taking our time with this because what's the rush? So verse 27, following verse, talks about religion that God the Father accepts. And it says this: religion that God our Father accepts as pure and faultless is this: to look after orphans and widows in their distress and to keep oneself from being polluted by the world. And that is quite a contrast from what we saw about our language and the way we speak to folks. In that, it's a contrast. Anyway, this gives us an illustration or a picture of pure religion. What is our religion? Whether we're Catholic, evangelical, Orthodox, whatever the case might be, that's our worship. That's our acts of devotion towards God. And what he's saying here is that the religion that God accepts is pure, as clean, as spotless, as undefiled, is what? Is at this particular time, when this occasional letter was written, he says this: to look after orphans and widows in their distress. There was nothing that was catching them back in that time. Yes, some were getting help, but many weren't. And so many times when a woman became a widow, that was it, man. They were just subject to whatever they could get many times. And it wasn't easy. And it was not the same. There are safety nets in our day and age, but even so, people still struggle and suffer in our day and time. And we have to keep that in mind. But he's saying that this is what pure religion is helping those, really, I believe, are the ones that are the neediest, the ones that can't help themselves. They are facing distress. They're facing affliction, tribulations, troubles, oppression many times. And the religion that is spotless, or the religion that is clean and spotless, is that those acts of kindness, when we take notice and help those who are the least among all of us, really. That's what James is talking about here. It's not just necessarily widows and orphans, although that's what he's addressing there. It's needy people that don't have that safety net. They don't have family to fall back on. And these are the type of works, and we'll talk about works later on in James in chapter 2. As we get there, it's going to be a while. But those are the type of works that we're talking about. Even in the Old Testament, in Exodus chapter 22, it says, do not take advantage of the widow or the fatherless. Talks about that. Paul writes about that in the New Testament. If you do, and they cry out to me, I will certainly hear their cry. In Isaiah chapter 1, learn to do right, seek justice, defend the oppressed, take up the cause of the fatherless, plead the case of the widow. That's in our day-to-day, in the walking out our Christianity. That's much of it, is helping those in need, helping those who are oppressed. I mean, that's what he's talking about here, the ones that are oppressed. Proverbs 19, verse 17 says this, and this is a beautiful picture of it. It says, whoever is kind to the poor lends to the Lord, and he will reward them for what they have done. Right? According to Proverbs, God views our kindness as a gift to him, the kindness that we express to those who don't have. And in our day and age, there's a lot who don't have. So I'm going to end this. This is actually shorter than I thought it was going to be, but that's okay. There's a lot to chew on and a lot to think about as we go through this, right? When we talk about our quote unquote religion, but this is the language that's being used here. Always remember that. This is what God accepts as pure, as faultless. Watch what Jesus said, and this is kind of a bit of a warning. I thought about this when we do these acts of kindness, and I pray that we all are, and really pray about this, and I need to as well in our own personal lives. How can I, everybody, even folks that are getting by, don't have a lot to spare, and there's not a lot of extra to go around. But many times there is some, and I think it's incumbent, and we're called to do something. We all can't do a lot. I mean, that's just a given. Many folks are on fixed incomes. Many folks are just getting by, let go from jobs, laid off, different things like that. And so it's harder, but we can always do a little bit. Amen. So this is a bit of a admonition. What Jesus said in Matthew chapter 6 in the beginning, he says this, and this is a warning about the temptation that we all faced, and the what can be a downfall when it comes to helping folks, and that is this. He says, "Be careful not to practice our righteousness in front of others to be seen by them. If you do, you will have no reward from your Father in heaven. So when you give to the needy, don't announce it with trumpets, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and on the streets, to be honored by others. Truly I tell you, they have received their reward in full. But when you give to the needy, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing." Obviously that's impossible, but that's how our giving is supposed to kind of play out, to where nobody really knows about it. It's not supposed to be announced. But anyway, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret. Then your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. He'll reward you, and you'll know when he rewards you. Nobody will have to tell you, because you haven't told anybody about your giving. It's not the thing. Man, I see a lot of this, and there was a thing. Well, the whole thing of putting our works, and it's a downfall, could be a downfall for any of us. But the whole thing of putting our works on display on social media, Instagram, whatever, Facebook, X, what have you. And I'm gonna actually, I just remembered an example. We were trying to help out when we did the original internet show, I guess that's what we called it back then. And you had to be very careful, because we were trying to encourage people to do things, and it's a very fine line to walk. We try to encourage folks to do things over the holidays, and it was hats and socks. We were asking people to get hats and socks, and it got something going amongst people that listened. They were encouraged to give, but you have to be real careful that you don't not like, well, look at what I've done, look at what I set into motion, or what our show may have set into motion at that time. It's a very fine line to walk when we're helping others, and we have to keep in mind the dignity of it, and keep in mind the dignity of the people who are the recipients of the gift. Keep their dignity in mind. Anyway, there was a thing that was on Facebook. I remember seeing it, and I don't know about Instagram, but definitely Facebook, and where people were, it was usually these bishops, and when I say bishops, I'm not talking about Catholic or Orthodox. I'm talking more along the lines of Pentecostal, which is my background of preaching. And they would go in restaurants, and they would film themselves giving these enormous tips to waitresses. Well, we know that most folks that work these kind of jobs, they're working class folks, man. A lot of them are barely getting by, and they live from the tips that they get from the generosity of people, right? But it would be a thing where these guys would go on there, well, I'm going to give you I'm going to give you a tip here. And it would be like 500 or 1,000, which is crazy generous, and we had to be careful to not become guilty of insulting generosity or be almost jealous of it. We can't have that. But at the same time, it was I mean, you would tear up watching these things because the waitress would be so touched and just, she's raising kids and would go into her story, but it takes away from it. It takes away from it when we put good works as a display, a showcase, right? Giving to the needy, and let's go back to this, helping those in distress. It's not a show. It's not a show. It's not so we can get clicks or likes or subscribers. This is not what we're talking about here. Obviously, this is 2,000 years ago, so it's definitely not what we're talking about here. This is an era where they just had to do what they could do and help out. So let's, as we go through James, keep in mind, that's why I'm going just at a slower pace and like this. There'll be times when I do more verses at a time, but we really need to think about this and ask God to help us. God, help us to help when we can, because everybody's not in the same spot to help. But when you do help, do it with a sense of dignity. Do it with a sense of, God, this is a gift a service that I render to you and to humanity who is struggling. So we're going to wrap it up. I think we'll wrap it up from there. Yeah, we're not bad. We're at 11 minutes. So keep these things in mind. Read these verses. Go over chapter 1 of James. And as we continue, I may even try and do another one this weekend. But I'm glad I was able to try and get this one out in time. God bless you. I pray that God would encourage you, encourage your hearts. There's so many struggles, so many people going through so many things. So that's my prayer for you today, that you find relief in Christ, that you find your comfort, that you find rest for your soul on today as you go into your weekend. God bless you. God keep you. Get to church on Sunday if you can, and we'll see you on the next one. All right. Bye-bye.